Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something a little different. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and let's imagine a slow, deep breath in and out. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the quiet rhythm of your own existence. Now let's imagine something impossible, something that will never happen, but that can unlock so much about the world we live in. We're going to tell a story about our planet, a story that starts not with a bang, but with a whisper, with a gradual, impossible shift. We're going to imagine that the Earth, this great, beautiful, spinning blue marble, just stopped. And then, with the same gentle slowness, began to spin the other way. I should warn you, this is purely a thought experiment, because if this were to actually happen, the immediate effects would be, well, let's just say, you probably wouldn't survive the first few moments. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you'd like, let me know where you are in the world right now and what time it is for you. Let's start this journey together into a world that is and isn't. Our planet, a cosmic top, has been spinning eastward for billions of years, a silent, relentless motion that dictates the very rhythm of our lives. We feel this motion in the soft warmth of the morning sun as it rises in the east, and the long, weary shadows of evening as it sinks below the western horizon. This is the great foundational rhythm of our world. But what if we were to reverse it? What if the sun, our eternal timekeeper, decided to begin its journey from a different direction? We are not talking about some sudden catastrophic event, a violent lurch that would tear the planet apart. No, let's be more gentle. Let's imagine a gradual, almost imperceptible slowing, a long, drawn-out cosmic sigh that lasts for thousands of years. The day lengthens ever so slightly, the nights grow longer, seasons blur, and the passage of time becomes a little less certain. This isn't the stuff of Hollywood blockbusters. It's a quiet, profound change like the slow deep-sea currents that shape the ocean floor. It is a scientific curiosity wrapped in a poetic cloak. The very first, most fundamental thing to change would be our sense of direction, our celestial compass. The rising sun, the one constant in human history, would become a stranger. Imagine standing on a beach facing the endless expanse of the ocean. For all of recorded history, the sun has risen at your back, painting the sky with hues of fire and gold. But now it would greet you from the west. This simple reversal would ripple through everything we know. The ancient mariners who navigated by the stars, the farmers who tilled their fields by the sun's arc, the poets who spoke of dawn's embrace, all of their wisdom would become obsolete. The very language we use to describe time and place would need to be rewritten. West would become the direction of new beginnings. East, the direction of endings. It's a fundamental unraveling of our shared reality, a quiet subversion of the most basic principles of our existence. This reversal would have a ripple effect on everything from our daily routines to the planet's vast complex systems. Take, for instance, the wind. The Earth's rotation is the engine behind our global wind patterns. It's what gives us the trade winds, the westerlies, and the jet streams. This is governed by something we call the Coriolis effect, a fundamental concept in meteorology and physics. Imagine a spinning carousel. If you were to throw a ball from the center to the edge, it wouldn't travel in a straight line. It would curve, seemingly deflected by an invisible force. This is the Coriolis effect in action. On a planetary scale, this invisible force dictates the direction of moving air and water. In the northern hemisphere, it deflects objects to the right, and in the southern hemisphere to the left. This is why hurricanes and cyclones spin counterclockwise in the north and clockwise in the south. This is the beautiful, elegant dance of our atmosphere. If the Earth were to reverse its spin, this dance would be choreographed in reverse. The Coriolis effect would deflect everything in the opposite direction. The trade winds, which currently blow from east to west, would now blow from west to east. This wouldn't just be a simple change. It would be a complete overhaul of the Earth's climate engine. The air that currently brings moisture from the Atlantic to the Americas would now push it away. The deserts of North Africa would suddenly find themselves in the path of moisture-laden winds from the new western Atlantic, while the lush rainforests of the Amazon would begin to feel the hot, dry winds blowing from the newly formed Sahara. It's a grand planetary scale swap, a silent redistribution of moisture, heat, and life itself. This leads us to a fascinating and slightly unsettling question. What would happen to the oceans? They are in many ways the great memory of the planet, holding within their depths the quiet history of our world. The currents, like vast unseen rivers, have been flowing in predictable patterns for eons. The Gulf Stream, a powerful current that brings warm water from the Gulf of Mexico up along the east coast of North America and across to Western Europe, is what keeps places like Great Britain and Scandinavia from being frozen wastelands. Its warmth is a gift, a constant thermostatic presence. If the Earth were to spin in reverse, the Coriolis effect would cause the Gulf Stream to reverse its course. Instead of bringing warmth to Europe, it would push cold Arctic waters down the coast of the Americas. The consequences would be profound. Europe would become a much colder, harsher place, while new coastal deserts might bloom with life under the influence of new, moisture-rich winds. The entire global ocean conveyor belt, the deep-sea currents that circulate nutrients and heat around the planet, would be thrown into chaos. It's a testament to the interconnectedness of our world, a reminder that the smallest shift in one system can cause a tidal wave of change in another. And what about the very shape of the Earth? Our planet is not a perfect sphere. Because of its rotation, it bulges slightly at the equator. This is a subtle yet measurable effect, a consequence of the centrifugal force pushing matter outwards. It's like a pizza dough spinner, where the spinning causes the dough to flatten out and get wider at the edges. If the Earth were to reverse its spin, this equatorial bulge would slowly over millennia begin to flatten out and reform at a new location. The weight of the world's oceans currently pushed towards the equator by this rotation would be redistributed. Coastal regions at the equator, those low-lying areas that have lived for centuries with the quiet threat of rising tides, would see the water recede. But new coastlines, new lands would be drowned as the oceans slowly, inevitably, began to shift their weight. This is not a sudden flood, but a gradual slow-motion resculpting of the planet's very form. It is the Earth itself breathing in and out, reshaping its own body in a cosmic dance of physics and time. It's a reminder that our world is not a static object, but a dynamic living system, constantly in flux, constantly responding to the subtle and not so subtle forces that act upon it. This leads to another even deeper question about our existence. Our sense of time is so tied to the predictable rise and fall of the sun. The gentle rhythm of day and night dictates our biological clocks, our circadian rhythms. The very cells in our bodies are hardwired to this 24-hour cycle. What would happen if this cycle was disrupted? If the day began with a cold, slow dawn in the west and ended with a warm, fiery sunset in the east, our bodies, honed by millions of years of evolution, would be thrown into confusion. Sleep patterns would be disrupted, and our internal clocks would struggle to find a new rhythm. It is a slow biological unraveling, a profound disconnect between the external world and our internal experience of it. It's a testament to the idea that we are not separate from the world we inhabit, but deeply and irrevocably intertwined with it like a single thread in a great cosmic tapestry. Our consciousness, our very perception of reality, is a product of this spinning world. What would a world in reverse teach us about ourselves, about our place in the universe? This brings us to a less known but equally fascinating concept, one that physicists still wonder about. The Novikov self-consistency principle, proposed by physicist Igor Novikov, is a theoretical solution to the paradoxes of time travel. It essentially states that if you could travel back in time, you couldn't do anything that would create a paradox. For example, you couldn't go back and kill your grandfather before he met your grandmother. The universe, in a sense, would find a way to prevent it, perhaps by making your efforts fail. It's a beautiful, elegant, and deeply unsettling idea that the universe itself has a kind of self-correcting memory. In our hypothetical world, where the Earth spins in reverse, we are not traveling in time, but we are fundamentally altering the causal chain of events. We are not creating a paradox, but we are exploring a different version of reality. A reality where a simple change at the cosmic level rewrites everything. Perhaps this thought experiment is a kind of gentle time travel, a way of exploring a parallel universe without ever leaving our beds. It's a way of asking, what if, and listening to the echoes of a world that could have been. And in that listening, we learn something new about the world that is. The sun's new journey across the sky would be the most immediate and profound shift, a quiet cosmic spectacle that would reshape our world from the ground up. We've become so accustomed to the sun's steady eastward march that we barely even notice it. It's the silent metronome of our existence. But now it would be a new kind of rising, a gentle ascent from the western horizon. Imagine the psychological effect of this. For a moment, let's close our eyes again and picture it. The setting sun, with its fiery reds and soft oranges, is the color of endings of day's gentle surrender to night. But in this reversed world, those colors would be the colors of new beginnings. The world would feel a little upside down, a little out of sync. The familiar comfort of a morning sun warming the eastern windowpane would be replaced by the quiet drama of a western sunrise. It's a sensory reversal that would ripple through our collective consciousness, a subtle but persistent reminder that the very foundation of our reality has been altered. This simple reversal of the sun's path is the key that unlocks a cascade of planetary changes. The way the sun heats the Earth is not uniform. The equatorial regions receive more direct sunlight, while the poles receive less. This differential heating is the engine that drives our global weather systems. It's the great cosmic furnace, and the Earth's rotation is the fan that circulates the heat. On our current Earth, the sun heats the surface, and the atmosphere above it warms up. As the planet spins eastward, this warm air is carried along with it, creating predictable patterns of rising and falling pressure. But in our reversed world, the newly warmed air would be carried in the opposite direction. This wouldn't just be a simple mirror image of our current weather. The land masses and oceans are not distributed symmetrically. The immense heat sink of the Pacific Ocean, for instance, would now be at the trailing edge of the planet's rotation, a position that would dramatically alter its role in global climate. This new reversed circulation would cause profound changes in rainfall. The world's great deserts, those vast empty spaces we think of as eternal, are largely a product of our current weather patterns. The Sahara, for example, is situated where dry air from the subtropics descends and spreads out. But with the Earth spinning the other way, this dry air would be pushed to a new location. In a beautiful poetic twist, the parched lands of North Africa would now be positioned to receive moisture-laden winds from the newly formed Atlantic currents. Over thousands of years, the Sahara would begin to green its ancient sands, giving way to lush vegetation. Rivers would form where there were none, and life would slowly reclaim the land. But this new life would come at a cost. The regions that are currently green and lush places like the Amazon rainforest would now be in a new climate zone. The moisture from the Atlantic, which currently nourishes the rainforest, would be pushed away, and the dry air from the new desert regions would begin to encroach. The Amazon, the great green lung of our planet, would slowly begin to wither its vibrant life, giving way to arid plains and savannas. This isn't a sudden death, but a slow, quiet transformation, a long goodbye to one ecosystem, and a long hello to another. It is a powerful reminder that stability in nature is not an absolute, but a delicate balance of forces. Speaking of forces, let's talk about the moon. Our moon, the great silver lantern in the sky, is more than just a beautiful object to gaze at. It is a powerful force that exerts a gravitational pull on our planet creating the tides. These tides, the rhythmic rise and fall of the ocean, are a fundamental part of life on Earth. The moon's gravity pulls on the Earth, creating a bulge of water on the side of the planet facing it, and another bulge on the opposite side. The Earth's rotation carries us through these bulges, creating the familiar cycle of high and low tides. But in a reversed world, the moon's gravitational pull wouldn't change. It would still create those same bulges. The difference is how our spinning Earth interacts with them. The bulge of water would still be there, but our land masses would be moving through it in the opposite direction. This would have a subtle but significant effect on the timing and height of the tides, altering coastal ecosystems and the lives of the creatures that depend on them. The rhythm of the shore, that ancient song of the sea, would be sung in a different key. This brings us to a less known but equally fascinating concept, one that physicists still wonder about: the Novikov self-consistency principle, proposed by physicist Igor Novikov, is a theoretical solution to the paradoxes of time travel. It essentially states that if you could travel back in time, you couldn't do anything that would create a paradox. For example, you couldn't go back and kill your grandfather before he met your grandmother. The universe, in a sense, would find a way to prevent it, perhaps by making your efforts fail. It's a beautiful, elegant, and deeply unsettling idea that the universe itself has a kind of self-correcting memory. In our hypothetical world, where the Earth spins in reverse, we are not traveling in time, but we are fundamentally altering the causal chain of events. We are not creating a paradox, but we are exploring a different version of reality. A reality where a simple change at the cosmic level rewrites everything. Perhaps this thought experiment is a kind of gentle time travel, a way of exploring a parallel universe without ever leaving our beds. It's a way of asking, what if, and listening to the echoes of a world that could have been. And in that listening, we learn something new about the world that is. The very fabric of our atmosphere, the delicate balance of gases that allows us to breathe, would also be affected. The Earth's atmosphere is not a static envelope. It's a dynamic, swirling ocean of air constantly in motion. The heat from the sun and the Earth's rotation are the two main forces that drive this motion. We've already talked about the Coriolis effect and how it would be reversed, but there's another more subtle change that would occur. The Earth's rotation helps to mix the atmosphere, ensuring a relatively uniform distribution of gases. In a reversed world, this mixing would be different. New patterns of circulation would emerge, and it's possible that some regions would become more prone to atmospheric stagnation, leading to pockets of polluted air or regions with a lower concentration of vital gases like oxygen. It's a silent, invisible change that would have profound consequences for all living things. This leads to a more philosophical question about the nature of time itself. We perceive time as a linear progression, a river flowing from the past to the future. Our lives are a series of moments, each one following the last, in a relentless march forward. But what if our perception of time is in part a product of our spinning world? What if the steady eastward rotation of our planet is what gives us our sense of direction, our sense of a forward-moving narrative? In a reversed world, would our perception of time be altered? Would the feeling of going forward be replaced by a subtle, unsettling feeling of going backward? This is not a scientific question, but a poetic one. It's an exploration of the deep, mysterious connection between the physical world and our internal experience of it. The very shape of the continents would also be affected, not just the climate. The Earth is a geologically active planet with immense tectonic plates that are constantly in motion, grinding against each other, building mountains and causing earthquakes. This slow, majestic dance is driven by the heat from the Earth's core, but it is also subtly influenced by the planet's rotation. The centrifugal force from the Earth's spin pushes the plates outward, especially at the equator. In a reversed world, this force would change and the plates would be under new stresses. It's not likely that this would cause a sudden catastrophic shift, but over millions of years, the patterns of geological activity would change. New fault lines might emerge, and the slow, inexorable process of mountain building might begin in new locations. The geological history of our planet, written in the very rocks and strata beneath our feet, would be rewritten. It's a reminder that even the most solid, unchanging things in our world are in a constant state of flux. And what about the deep ocean currents? We've mentioned the Gulf Stream, but the entire ocean is connected by a vast, three-dimensional system of currents called the global conveyor belt. This great underwater river, driven by differences in water temperature and salinity, circulates heat and nutrients around the world. It's a vital part of the planet's climate system, and it's what allows life to thrive in even the deepest parts of the ocean. In a reversed world, this conveyor belt would be thrown into disarray. The new wind patterns and changes in the distribution of heat would disrupt the delicate balance of temperature and salinity that drives the currents. The consequences for marine ecosystems would be catastrophic. The creatures of the deep, who have evolved over millions of years to depend on the steady flow of these currents, would find their world turned upside down. It's a silent, invisible apocalypse for the inhabitants of the deep, a profound reminder of the fragility of even the most ancient and seemingly stable ecosystems. Finally, let's consider the effect on the very atmosphere we breathe. The Earth's rotation helps to keep the atmosphere stable, a delicate balance of pressure and temperature. But what if the rotation were reversed? What if the forces that have kept our atmosphere in a stable, life-giving state were suddenly working in the opposite direction? The planet's atmosphere is a chaotic system, and a reversal of its fundamental engine would lead to new, unpredictable patterns. We might see an increase in extreme weather events as the new unfamiliar forces of the reversed rotation create powerful destructive storms. We might see the formation of new weather phenomena that we can't even imagine. It's a journey into a world that is both familiar and utterly alien. A world where the very air we breathe is a different kind of stranger. It is a beautiful, terrifying, and deeply humbling thought experiment. The winds of a different world, those new ethereal currents, would be more than just a reversal of what we know. They would be a grand planetary-scale re-choreography of the very air we breathe. We've touched on the Coriolis effect, that invisible hand that guides our weather. But let's delve deeper into its subtle, powerful influence. Imagine for a moment a child on a playground swing. As the swing moves forward, the air resistance pushes against them. But if they were to suddenly reverse direction, the air would push in a new way, creating a different kind of resistance, a different kind of motion. This is a very simple way of thinking about the complex forces at play in our atmosphere. The Earth's rotation isn't just about spinning. It's about a constant push and pull, a relentless transfer of momentum from the solid planet to the gaseous envelope that surrounds it. In our current world, the Earth's rotation creates distinct zones of wind and pressure. We have the trade winds near the equator, blowing from east to west, the westerlies in the mid-latitudes, blowing from west to east, and the polar easterlies. These are not static lines on a map. They are vast, churning rivers of air that carry heat and moisture around the planet. They are the great architects of our climate. With a reversed spin, these rivers would flow in the opposite direction. The trade winds would now blow from west to east, carrying new kinds of weather to the continents. The westerlies, are familiar carriers of weather systems across North America and Europe, would now blow from east to west, bringing with them a completely different set of atmospheric conditions. The jet streams, those high-altitude ribbons of wind that steer our storms and airplanes, would also be reversed, causing a domino effect of change on our weather patterns. The very concept of weather as we know it would become a relic of a forgotten past. This new atmospheric dance would have a particularly dramatic effect on the great mountain ranges of our world. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies. They are more than just beautiful peaks. They are also silent, immovable obstacles in the path of the wind. In our current world, the westerlies hit the west coast of North America, are forced to rise over the Rockies, and in doing so, they drop their moisture on the western slopes, creating lush forests and temperate rainforests. By the time the air descends on the eastern side, it is dry, creating the vast arid plains and deserts of the Great Basin. But with a reversed spin, the winds would blow from east to west. They would pick up moisture from the newly formed ocean currents on the east coast and then be forced to rise over the Appalachians. The Appalachians, which are currently much smaller and gentler than the Rockies, would still be a formidable barrier, creating a rain shadow on their western side. But the real drama would occur on the other side of the continent. The winds would then travel across the now dry plains and crash into the Rockies from the east. The eastern slopes of the Rockies, currently home to grasslands and high desert, would be inundated with rain and snow, while the western slopes, currently lush and green, would become a rain shadow desert. It's a complete reversal of our familiar geography, a silent, slow-motion resculpting of the land itself. This leads us to a fascinating and little-known scientific curiosity. Did you know that some deep-sea creatures, like certain species of giant tube worms, don't have mouths or digestive systems? They survive through a process called chemosynthesis, where they use bacteria to convert chemicals from hydrothermal vents into energy. They exist in a world completely divorced from the sun's energy, a testament to the incredible diversity and adaptability of life on our planet. In our reversed world, where the great forces of the surface world are thrown into chaos, these creatures would likely be unaffected. They are a reminder that beneath the turbulent surface of our planet, there are other, more stable rhythms at play. The Earth has many different clocks, and the one we live by on the surface is just one of them. The great question this raises is what other kinds of life, what other kinds of ecosystems might emerge in a world where the primary clock of day and night, of seasons and storms, is completely reset? Let's return to the atmosphere and the question of its fundamental stability. Our planet's magnetic field, generated by the churning of molten iron in the Earth's core, is our great shield against the harsh realities of space. It deflects the solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles from the sun, and protects our atmosphere from being stripped away. The Earth's rotation plays a crucial role in generating this field, acting like a great cosmic dynamo. The rotation of the planet causes the liquid iron to swirl and eddy, creating electric currents that in turn generate the magnetic field. But what would happen if that rotation were reversed? The truth is, we don't really know for sure. It's a question that physicists and geophysicists still ponder. It's possible that the magnetic field would reverse its polarity, something that has happened many times in the Earth's history, and something that we can see recorded in the magnetic signatures of ancient rocks. But it's also possible that a reversed spin would cause a period of magnetic instability, a time when the field is weak or even absent. During such a period, our planet would be vulnerable to solar radiation, and our atmosphere would be slowly, silently eroded. It is a chilling thought, a reminder of the delicate balance of forces that makes life on Earth possible. This brings us back to the poetic idea of the Earth's quiet heartbeat. The rotation of our planet is not just a physical phenomenon. It is a fundamental part of its identity. It's the silent rhythm that gives rise to so much of what we hold dear, from the warmth of the morning sun to the fierce beauty of a storm. A reversal of this rhythm would be a profound change, a redefinition of the planet itself. It would be a new kind of world with new landscapes, new oceans, and new weather. It would be a world that is both the same and utterly different, like a beloved song played in reverse. The melody is still there, but the meaning is gone, replaced by something new and strange. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that the world we live in is not a static, unchanging backdrop, but a dynamic living system, and that our place in it is far more fragile and precious than we often realize. So let's allow our minds to drift back to the image of the spinning world. We see the great blue sphere with its swirling white clouds, its continents of green and brown, and its endless oceans. We know with the certainty of a scientist and the awe of a poet that this spinning is the source of so much of the beauty and complexity of our world. But what if we were to imagine just for a moment longer, a world where the spinning was in reverse, a world where the sun rises in the west and the wind blows from a new direction? It's a world that is not a nightmare but a dream of what could have been, and a reminder of the quiet miracle of what is. This is the great mystery, the great question that our thought experiment poses. What is the fundamental nature of our planet's rhythm, and what would happen if that rhythm were to be broken and rewritten? This is the core of our journey, a journey into the heart of a spinning world and the silent, unspoken stories it has to tell. And the oceans, those immense, silent sentinels of our planet, would be the next to join this grand re-choreography. They hold within their depths not just water, but the memory of time, the stories of ancient currents, and the fragile, intricate web of life. We've talked about the winds, but the winds are just the breath of the atmosphere. The oceans are the very blood of the planet, and in our current world, they flow in predictable, powerful streams. The global ocean conveyor belt, a magnificent slow-motion river that circulates heat and nutrients around the planet, is a testament to the elegant dance of our world. It's a vast, three-dimensional system, driven by differences in temperature and salinity. Cold, dense, salty water at the poles sinks to the bottom of the ocean and begins a slow, deep journey toward the equator. As it travels, it gradually warms and rises, eventually returning to the surface to complete the loop. This process is what keeps our planet's climate stable. It's what gives Western Europe its mild winters, and what regulates the temperature of our entire world. But with a reversed spin, this great quiet river would be thrown into disarray. The new wind patterns driven by the reversed Coriolis effect would push surface water in new directions. The Gulf Stream, that benevolent current that has warmed Europe for millennia, would be reversed. Instead of carrying warm water from the tropics to the North Atlantic, it would now be a cold current, pushing frigid Arctic water down the coast of the Americas and away from Europe. This wouldn't just be a change in temperature, it would be a complete overhaul of the marine ecosystem. The plankton and fish that have evolved to live in the warm, nutrient-rich waters of the Gulf Stream would be forced to adapt or die. New species adapted to the cold would begin to colonize the coastlines of North America, while the coasts of Europe would grow colder and harsher, with a dramatic shift in the kinds of marine life that could survive there. The deep ocean currents, the other half of the conveyor belt, would also be affected. The formation of cold, dense water at the poles is a crucial part of the process. In our reversed world, the new climate patterns would change where and how this dense water forms. Regions that are currently warm might become colder and vice versa. This would disrupt the delicate balance that drives the deep ocean circulation, and it's possible that the entire conveyor belt would slow down or even stop for a time. This is a chilling thought because a slowing of the conveyor belt has been linked to past ice ages. Without the constant circulation of heat from the tropics to the poles, the planet's climate could become much more extreme, with colder winters and hotter summers. It's a powerful reminder that the stability of our world is not guaranteed, but is a product of a delicate, interconnected system. This brings us to a fascinating scientific fact, one that is often overlooked. Did you know that some species of whales, like the humpback, use the Earth's magnetic field to navigate? They are born with an innate sense of direction, a kind of internal compass that allows them to travel thousands of miles across the open ocean to their feeding and breeding grounds. The specific mechanisms are still a mystery to us, but it's believed that they can detect the subtle changes in the magnetic field as they travel. What would happen to these magnificent creatures in our reversed world? Would their internal compasses still work? Would they be able to find their way in a world where the magnetic field is in flux, or where the currents that they follow have been completely altered? It's a profound question that reminds us that we are not the only ones whose lives are dictated by the deep, invisible forces of our planet. Let's return to the philosophical heart of our journey. The oceans, with their vast, silent depths, are a metaphor for the great mysteries of our world. We have explored less than 5% of our oceans. The vast majority of them remain a complete mystery to us. We have better maps of the surface of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. This raises a deep and humbling question. What other secrets does our world hold? What other rhythms, what other systems are at play that we are not even aware of? In our thought experiment, we are only scratching the surface of the changes that would occur. We are imagining the big obvious shifts, but the truth is, the most profound changes would likely be the subtle ones, the ones that we don't even know to look for. The reversal of the Earth's spin would be a key that unlocks a new strange and beautiful world, a world with its own secrets and its own rhythms. The oceans are also the great regulators of our climate. They absorb immense amounts of heat and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, acting as a giant global thermostat. But with a reversed spin, the distribution of this heat and carbon would change. The new currents would carry heat and carbon to new locations, altering the chemistry of the ocean itself. This could lead to new patterns of ocean acidification, with some regions becoming more acidic and others becoming less. The consequences for marine life, especially creatures with shells like corals and crustaceans, would be catastrophic. It's a reminder that the ocean is not just a passive body of water, but a living, breathing system, and that our impact on it is far more profound than we often realize. So, as we drift into the quiet stillness of the night, let's think about the oceans. Let's think about the great unseen rivers of water that flow beneath the surface. Let's think about the whales that navigate by the silent, invisible compass of the Earth's magnetic field. And let's think about the profound mystery of our own world, a world that we have only just begun to understand. The reversal of the Earth's spin is an impossible idea, but it is a beautiful one. It allows us to step outside of our own reality and to see our world with new eyes. It allows us to appreciate the delicate balance of forces that makes our lives possible, and to wonder at the incredible interconnected web of life that we are a part of. We are not just living on a planet. We are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. The shifting sands and new horizons, those quiet, inexorable transformations of the land itself, would be a testament to the planet's ability to reinvent itself. We've imagined the winds and the oceans flowing in new directions. But now, let's see the consequences of that on the very skin of the Earth. Deserts, those vast, seemingly lifeless landscapes, are in fact a product of a specific set of atmospheric and oceanic conditions. The great desert belts of our current world, like the Sahara and the Arabian Desert, are located at approximately 30 degrees north and south of the equator. This is where dry sinking air from the Hadley cell, a large-scale atmospheric circulation pattern, creates high-pressure zones that suppress rainfall. But with the planet spinning in reverse, this pattern would be completely upended. The winds now blowing from the west would pick up moisture from the newly warmed eastern oceans and carry it toward the continents. The Sahara, currently a vast arid expanse, would find itself in the path of these new moisture-laden winds. Over thousands of years, the desert would begin to shrink. The ancient fossilized riverbeds would fill with water once more, and the land would be slowly, patiently reclaimed by life. Grasses and shrubs would be the first to appear, their tough roots slowly breaking down the sand and creating new soil. Then would come the trees, their patient growth, creating new forests, new habitats, and new ecosystems. The Sahara would become a green land, a testament to the power of a changed climate. But this new life would come at a cost to the places we currently know as green and vibrant. The Amazon rainforest, the great green lung of our planet, currently receives immense amounts of moisture from the Atlantic Ocean, carried on the trade winds. With these winds now blowing in the opposite direction, the Amazon would be starved of its life-giving rainfall. The lush, tangled canopy would begin to thin, and the rich, humid air would give way to a dry, hot wind. The great river, the Amazon itself, would slowly begin to shrink its vast network of tributaries, giving way to a smaller, less powerful river. The rainforest, over thousands of years, would become a new kind of desert, a new kind of arid plain. This leads us to a philosophical question about the nature of geography itself. Is a desert a place, or is it a condition? Is the Amazon a forest, or is it the product of a specific set of atmospheric and oceanic conditions? Our thought experiment suggests that geography is not a fixed, immutable thing, but a dynamic, ever-changing product of a complex system. It suggests that the landscapes we see around us are not eternal, but are a product of a specific moment in time. This is a humbling and a beautiful thought. It reminds us that our world is in a constant state of flux and that nothing is truly permanent. This leads us to a scientific curiosity about geological time. We talk about thousands of years as if it were a long time, but in the grand majestic sweep of geological history, it's a mere blink of an eye. The formation of a mountain range, the shifting of a continent, these processes take millions of years. But the reversal of the Earth's spin, while it would have immediate consequences, would also have long-term geological effects. The redistribution of the oceans, the changes in the Earth's bulge, the new stresses on the tectonic plates, these would all play out over geological time. The slow, patient work of plate tectonics would be subtly altered. New fault lines might emerge, and old ones might become dormant. The very topography of the planet, the subtle hills and valleys, the great mountain ranges and the vast plains would be slowly, inexorably reshaped. It's a reminder that the planet is a living, breathing entity, and that its heartbeat is measured in eons, not in moments. So let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine this new world. We see a green Sahara with new rivers and new forests. We see a dry, arid Amazon with vast plains and lonely winding rivers. We see new deserts and new grasslands, new mountains and new coastlines. It's a world that is both familiar and utterly alien, a world that is a mirror image of our own, but with its own unique beauty and its own unique story. This is the power of our thought experiment. It allows us to see our own world with a new sense of wonder and to appreciate the delicate balance of forces that makes it what it is. The Earth's own internal rhythms, the silent, slow-motion processes that shape its surface, would also be subtly altered. The molten core of the Earth, that churning, roiling ball of iron and nickel, is what generates our magnetic field. The Earth's rotation is what gives this core its purpose, its direction. With a reversed spin, the core would still churn, but it would churn in a new way and the magnetic field would be affected. We've already talked about the possibility of a field reversal or a period of instability, but there's a more subtle change that would also occur. The flow of heat from the core to the surface, the engine that drives plate tectonics, would also be affected. It's a slow, silent change, a whisper in the heart of the planet. But over millions of years, it would have profound consequences for the very shape of our world. This brings us back to a profound mystery, a question that scientists still grapple with. How do the deepest parts of our planet, the core and the mantle, interact with the surface? We can only infer what's happening deep inside the Earth through indirect means like seismic waves and the study of ancient rocks. The truth is, we don't really know for sure. The inner workings of our planet are a great unspoken secret, a mystery that we are only just beginning to unravel. Our thought experiment, while impossible in reality, is a beautiful way to ask new questions about this mystery. By imagining a world with a reversed spin, we can explore the connections between the planet's surface and its deep interior in a new and different way. It's a way of saying, if we change this one thing, what happens to everything else? And listening for the quiet, subtle answers that the planet has to give, the subtle dance with gravity and tides, those gentle cosmic whispers, would be a new kind of rhythm in our reversed world. We've considered the grand sweeping changes to winds and oceans, but now, let's turn our attention to the planet's very form and its relationship with the celestial bodies around it. The Earth, as we know, is not a perfect sphere. Its relentless eastward spin creates a subtle but measurable bulge around its equator. This is a direct consequence of the centrifugal force, an outward force experienced by an object moving in a circle. Think of a merry-go-round. The faster it spins, the more you feel pushed away from the center. On a planetary scale, this force pushes the Earth's mass, particularly the liquid and gaseous parts, outwards, creating a gentle swell at its waist. Our planet's diameter at the equator is about 43 kilometers greater than its diameter from pole to pole. This bulge is a testament to the power of our planet's spin, a silent, unmoving monument to its constant motion. In a world where the Earth's spin slowly reverses, this bulge would not vanish in an instant. It would be a slow, quiet process, a gradual redistribution of the planet's mass. The land and oceans at the equator, currently under the influence of this outward push, would feel the force diminish. Over thousands of years, the equatorial bulge would begin to flatten out, a slow and patient subsidence. Meanwhile, a new bulge would begin to form, but this new bulge would be a different kind of beast. It would be a new kind of geological dance, a new kind of cosmic posture. The oceans currently piled up at the equator would slowly begin to recede, exposing new land and creating new coastlines. But this new land would come at a cost. The planet's mass would be redistributed, and the oceans would slowly begin to pile up in new locations, perhaps at the new equator of our reversed world, a place that currently lies under a different set of gravitational and rotational forces. This brings us to the tides. We've talked about the moon's gravity and its role in creating the ocean's rise and fall. But there's a subtler aspect to this relationship, a kind of cosmic friction. The Earth's rotation is faster than the moon's orbit. As the Earth spins, it drags the tidal bulges of water ahead of the moon. This slight lead creates a gravitational pull that acts as a brake on the Earth's rotation, slowly, inexorably slowing our planet down. This is why a day used to be shorter in the distant past, and why it's getting longer by a tiny fraction of a second every century. This is the quiet, elegant dance of the Earth and the moon, a dance of mutual influence and slow, patient change. In our reversed world, the Earth would still be spinning, but in the opposite direction. The moon's orbit would not change. It would still be a silent, distant companion, pulling on the Earth's oceans. But now the Earth's rotation would be moving against the moon's orbital motion, and this would create a new kind of cosmic friction. Instead of slowing the Earth down, the moon's gravitational pull on the tidal bulge would now act as an accelerator, slowly speeding the Earth up. This would have a profound effect on our sense of time. The day, which has been growing longer for billions of years, would now begin to shorten. The rhythm of our lives, the very concept of a 24-hour day, would be in a state of slow, majestic change. It's a reminder that our perception of time is not an absolute, but a product of the deep, invisible forces of our universe. This raises a fascinating and slightly unsettling question, one that physicists still wonder about. The Novikov self-consistency principle, which we've mentioned before, is about the paradoxes of time travel. But what if we're not talking about time travel, but about a change in the fundamental rhythm of time itself? What if the universe has a kind of internal inertia, a resistance to change that would make this reversal impossible? The truth is, we don't really know for sure. The laws of physics, as we understand them, don't forbid a reversed spin, but they also don't tell us what would happen to the deeper, more subtle rhythms of the cosmos. This is where our thought experiment takes us into the realm of the philosophical, into the realm of the great unanswered questions about the nature of our universe. It's a way of asking, what if the very fabric of reality is a tapestry woven from threads that we cannot see? And what happens if we pull on one of those threads? So let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine this new dance. We see a world with a new kind of shape, a new kind of posture in the cosmos. We see the oceans slowly receding in some places and rising in others. We feel the subtle, inexorable change in the length of our day, a new kind of cosmic heartbeat. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static object, but a dynamic living system constantly in flux, constantly responding to the subtle and not so subtle forces that act upon it. And in that confrontation, we learn something new about our own place in the universe, a place that is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. The magnetic shield's whisper, that silent, invisible embrace, is our next great mystery to unravel. We've drifted through the grand sweeping changes of wind and water and the subtle dance of gravity, but now we turn our attention to the Earth's very core, the fiery heart that gives our planet its soul. Our planet is in many ways a giant spinning magnet. This magnetic field, a vast invisible shield that extends thousands of miles into space, is generated by the churning of molten iron in the Earth's outer core. The rotation of the planet causes this liquid iron to swirl and eddy like a great cosmic dynamo, creating powerful electric currents that in turn generate the magnetic field. This field is our first and last line of defense against the harsh realities of space. It deflects the solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles from the sun, and protects our atmosphere from being stripped away. Without it, our planet would be a barren, lifeless rock, a silent testament to the fury of the sun. But what would happen if the Earth were to slowly, patiently reverse its spin? This is a question that geophysicists still ponder, and the truth is, we don't really know for sure. The physics of the Earth's core are incredibly complex and difficult to model. It's a place of unimaginable heat and pressure, a world we can only infer through indirect means. But we can make some educated guesses. The reversal of the spin would likely cause a period of magnetic instability. The great dynamo, which has been spinning in one direction for billions of years, would be thrown into a state of flux. The magnetic field might weaken dramatically, or it might become chaotic with multiple poles emerging in different places. This is not unprecedented. The geological record preserved in the magnetic signatures of ancient rocks shows that the Earth's magnetic field has reversed its polarity many times in the past. These reversals are not instantaneous events. They take thousands of years, and during these periods of transition, the magnetic field is weak and unstable. In our reversed world, this instability would have profound consequences. With a weakened or chaotic magnetic field, our planet would be vulnerable to the solar wind. The aurora borealis and aurora australis, those beautiful celestial light shows, would become more frequent and more widespread, a constant flickering reminder of the sun's silent fury. But the consequences would be more than just a beautiful light show. The increased radiation from the solar wind would pose a threat to all life on Earth. It would be a slow, silent threat, a subtle increase in the rate of mutation and disease. It's a chilling thought, a reminder of the delicate balance of forces that makes life on Earth possible. This brings us to a fascinating scientific curiosity, one that is often overlooked. Did you know that some species of bacteria called magnetotactic bacteria have tiny internal compasses made of a mineral called magnetite? These tiny creatures use the Earth's magnetic field to navigate just as a compass does. They are a living, breathing testament to the power of the Earth's magnetic field, a reminder that this invisible force is a fundamental part of life on our planet. What would happen to these tiny navigators in a world of magnetic instability? Would their internal compasses still work? Or would they be thrown into a state of perpetual confusion? A tiny biological metaphor for the chaos of our reversed world. It's a profound question that reminds us that even at the smallest scales, life is deeply and irrevocably intertwined with the great invisible forces of our planet. Let's return to the philosophical heart of our journey. The Earth's magnetic field is a kind of cosmic memory, a silent record of our planet's history. The magnetic signatures in ancient rocks tell us stories about the planet's past, about the times when the magnetic field reversed, and about the long, slow, patient work of plate tectonics. In our thought experiment, We are not just changing the present. We are subtly altering the future of this cosmic memory. We are writing a new chapter in the planet's history, a chapter that begins with a whisper and ends with a new kind of silence, a new kind of truth. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static object, but a dynamic living system constantly in flux, constantly responding to the subtle and not so subtle forces that act upon it. And in that confrontation, we learn something new about our own place in the universe, a place that is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. So as we drift into the quiet stillness of the night, let's think about the Earth's magnetic shield. Let's think about the churning, roiling heart of our planet, the source of this invisible embrace. Let's think about the solar wind, the silent, relentless fury of the sun that our shield protects us from. And let's think about the profound mystery of our own world, a world that we have only just begun to understand. The reversal of the Earth's spin is an impossible idea, but it is a beautiful one. It allows us to step outside of our own reality and to see our world with new eyes. It allows us to appreciate the delicate balance of forces that makes our lives possible and to wonder at the incredible interconnected web of life that we are a part of. We are not just living on a planet. We are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. The clockwork of life unwound that great patient rhythm would be a new kind of silence in our reversed world. We've journeyed through the great planetary systems, the winds, the oceans, the magnetic heart, but now we turn inward to the biological systems that define life itself. Every living thing on this planet, from the smallest bacterium to the largest whale, is governed by a rhythm, a clock. This is our circadian rhythm, an internal biological clock that dictates our sleep-wake cycles, our hormone production, and even the functioning of our cells. This clock is in part calibrated by the external world, by the predictable cycle of light and darkness created by our spinning planet. The rising sun tells us it's time to wake up, and the setting sun tells us it's time to sleep. It's a silent, ancient conversation between life and the cosmos. But in a reversed world, this conversation would be thrown into disarray. The sun, our eternal timekeeper, would begin to rise in the west and set in the east. The light cues that our bodies have relied on for millions of years would be out of sync. Our internal clocks, hardwired to a 24-hour cycle, would struggle to adapt. The consequences would be profound and widespread. We might see a slow creeping increase in sleep disorders, a subtle but persistent feeling of being out of sync with the world. Our hormone production, which is closely tied to our circadian rhythms, would also be affected. The production of melatonin, the hormone that helps us sleep, would be released at the wrong time, and the production of cortisol, the hormone that wakes us up, would be similarly disrupted. It's a slow biological unraveling, a profound disconnect between the external world and our internal experience of it. This leads us to a fascinating and little-known scientific fact: dogs just like us dream. When we sleep, we go through different stages, including a stage called REM, rapid eye movement sleep, where most of our vivid dreams occur. Scientists have found that dogs also go through a similar REM sleep cycle. If you watch a dog sleeping, you can often see their paws twitching as if they are running, or hear them whimpering as if they are chasing something in their dreams. This is a beautiful, humbling thought. It reminds us that the fundamental rhythms of life, the need to sleep, the need to dream, are not unique to us, but are a shared heritage with the other creatures of our world. What would happen to these creatures in our reversed world? Would their dreams be different? Would they still run and chase in their sleep, even as the sun rose in a new direction? It's a question that reminds us that the mysteries of life are everywhere in the silent slumber of a dog and in the grand sweeping changes of a spinning planet. Let's also think about the great migrations of our world. The monarch butterfly, a tiny delicate creature, travels thousands of miles from Canada and the United States to Mexico every year. They do this over several generations, with each new generation picking up the journey where the last one left off. The specific mechanisms of their navigation are still a mystery, but scientists believe that they use a combination of the sun's position, the Earth's magnetic field, and an internal biological compass. What would happen to these creatures in our reversed world? Would their internal compasses still work? Would the sun rising in a new direction confuse their navigation? It's a profound question that reminds us that we are not the only ones whose lives are dictated by the deep invisible forces of our planet. This brings us back to a profound mystery, a question that scientists still grapple with. What is the fundamental nature of time itself? We perceive time as a linear progression, a river flowing from the past to the future. Our lives are a series of moments, each one following the last in a relentless march forward. But what if our perception of time is in part a product of our spinning world? What if the steady eastward rotation of our planet is what gives us our sense of direction, our sense of a forward-moving narrative? In a reversed world, would our perception of time be altered? Would the feeling of going forward be replaced by a subtle, unsettling feeling of going backward? This is not a scientific question, but a poetic one. It's an exploration of the deep, mysterious connection between the physical world and our internal experience of it. The very seasons of our world, those beautiful cyclical changes that define our year, would also be subtly altered. The tilt of the Earth's axis, the reason for our seasons, would not change. The planet would still be tilted at approximately 23.5 degrees, but the timing of the seasons would be different. The amount of sunlight a particular region receives would be dictated by the new, reversed journey of the sun. Spring, with its gentle rains and new growth, might come at a different time. Summer, with its long, warm days, might feel different. The cycle of the year, that ancient, predictable rhythm, would be sung in a new key. It's a reminder that even the most fundamental cycles of our world are a product of a delicate, interconnected system, and that a change in one part of the system can have a profound effect on all the others. So, as we drift into the quiet stillness of the night, let's think about the clockwork of life. Let's think about our internal rhythms, our silent biological clocks. Let's think about the dogs that dream and the butterflies that navigate by the sun. And let's think about the profound mystery of our own world, a world that we have only just begun to understand. The reversal of the Earth's spin is an impossible idea, but it is a beautiful one. It allows us to step outside of our own reality and to see our world with new eyes. It allows us to appreciate the delicate balance of forces that makes our lives possible, and to wonder at the incredible, interconnected web of life that we are a part of. We are not just living on a planet. We are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. The weight of the day, that slow, patient breath of our planet, would be a new kind of measure in our reversed world. We've talked about the biological clockwork of life, but now let's turn our attention to the philosophical and physical dimensions of time itself. For as long as we have existed as a species, our lives have been dictated by a day that is approximately 24 hours long. This is the great metronome of our existence, the steady beat that gives us our sense of rhythm and our sense of purpose. But what if this metronome were to subtly, inexorably change its speed? We've already discussed how the new cosmic friction between the Earth's reversed spin and the Moon's orbit would begin to shorten the day. This would not be a sudden dramatic change. It would be a slow, almost imperceptible process, a whisper in the heart of time itself. Imagine a generation of humans born into a world where the day is a fraction of a second shorter than the day before. They would not notice it. The change would be too small, too subtle to perceive. But over thousands of years, this change would accumulate. The 24-hour day would become 23 hours, and then 22, and then 21. The rhythm of our lives, the very concept of what a day is, would have to be rewritten. we would have to invent new ways of measuring time, new ways of organizing our lives. Our internal clocks, our circadian rhythms would have to adapt to a new, faster pace. It's a profound thought, a reminder that the most fundamental unit of our existence is not an absolute, but a product of a complex and ever-changing system. This brings us to a fascinating and slightly unsettling concept from physics Einstein's theory of relativity. The theory tells us that time is not an absolute, but is relative to the observer's motion and gravity. The faster you move, the slower time passes for you relative to a stationary observer. The stronger the gravity you are in, the slower time passes. This is not a theoretical curiosity. It's a measurable fact. The GPS satellites we use to navigate our world have to constantly adjust their clocks to account for the fact that they are moving faster and are in a weaker gravitational field than we are on the surface of the Earth. This is a beautiful, elegant, and deeply unsettling idea. It tells us that time is not a river, but a woven tapestry, a fabric that can be stretched and bent by the forces of the universe. In our reversed world, where the length of the day is changing, we are not changing the laws of relativity, but we are changing the conditions that we experience. The very rhythm of our planet, the one thing that we have always assumed to be constant, is now in flux. This raises a profound philosophical question. If the metronome of our world changes, does our perception of time change with it? Does a shorter day make life feel faster? Does a longer day make it feel slower? This is not a scientific question, but a poetic one. It's an exploration of the deep, mysterious connection between the physical world and our internal experience of it. It's a way of asking, what is time? And listening to the quiet, subtle answers that the universe has to give. This leads us to a fascinating and little-known scientific curiosity. Did you know that some species of deep-sea jellyfish, like the Turritopsis dohrnii, are biologically immortal? They can, under certain conditions, revert to an earlier stage of their life cycle, essentially becoming young again. They are a living, breathing testament to the idea that the arrow of time is not always a one-way street. They are a biological paradox, a reminder that life has its own unique ways of playing with the rules of the universe. What would happen to these creatures in our reversed world? Would they still be able to cheat death? Would their unique relationship with time be a source of strength in a world where the rhythms of the planet are in flux? It's a profound question that reminds us that the mysteries of life are everywhere, in the immortal jellyfish of the deep and in the grand sweeping changes of a spinning planet. So let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine this new kind of time. We feel the day slowly, patiently shortening. We feel our lives accelerating ever so slightly. We feel the weight of a day that is no longer a constant, but a variable, a gentle, inexorable change that is rewriting the very rules of our existence. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static backdrop, but a dynamic living system, and that our place in it is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. We are not just living in time. We are living with time, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. A new celestial compass, a new tapestry of the night sky would be the next great story to unfold in our reversed world. We've talked about the weight of the day and the internal rhythms of life, but now let's turn our gaze outward to the cosmos that has guided humanity for millennia. For as long as we have looked up at the night sky, we have seen the stars as silent, eternal constants. The North Star Polaris has been a beacon for sailors and a guide for travelers for centuries. The constellations, those ancient patterns we have woven from stars, have risen in the east and set in the west, a predictable and comforting cycle that has been a part of every culture, every mythology, every story we have ever told. But in our reversed world, this celestial map would be rendered obsolete. The Earth would still be orbiting the sun in the same direction, and the stars would still be in the same places in the cosmos. But our perspective, our point of view, would be completely altered. The constellations would now rise in the west and set in the east. The North Star Polaris would no longer be the center of our celestial rotation. It would be just another star moving across the sky in a new, unfamiliar arc. The entire night sky, that great cosmic map that has been a source of wonder and guidance, would be a stranger to us. This would have profound consequences, not just for navigation, but for our sense of place in the universe. The stories we have told about the constellations, the myths we have woven around them, would have to be rewritten. The great cosmic clock that has been our guide would be running in reverse. This brings us to a fascinating and little-known scientific curiosity. Did you know that some species of birds, like certain types of songbirds, use the stars to navigate during their long, arduous migrations? Scientists have found that these birds have an innate ability to recognize the patterns of the constellations and use them as a celestial compass. What would happen to these creatures in our reversed world? Would their internal compasses still work? Would they be able to adapt to a night sky where the stars are moving in a new, unfamiliar direction? It's a profound question that reminds us that we are not the only ones whose lives are dictated by the deep, invisible forces of our planet. This also raises an interesting question about the nature of space itself. We perceive space as a vast, empty expanse, a silent backdrop to our spinning planet. But what if space is not empty? What if it's filled with a kind of subtle, invisible energy, a kind of cosmic ether that we cannot see? This is a concept that physicists have been exploring for centuries, from the ancient idea of a celestial sphere to the modern concept of dark energy and dark matter. The truth is, we don't really know for sure. The cosmos is full of mysteries that we have only just begun to unravel. Our thought experiment, while impossible in reality, is a beautiful way to ask new questions about this mystery. By imagining a world with a reversed spin, we can explore the connections between our planet and the cosmos in a new and different way. It's a way of saying, if we change this one thing, what happens to everything else? And listening for the quiet, subtle answers that the universe has to give. Let's return to the philosophical heart of our journey. The night sky, with its endless stars and its silent, patient constellations, is a mirror to our own souls. We look up at it, and we feel a sense of wonder, a sense of our own smallness in the face of such immensity. The stories we have told about the stars are a reflection of our own hopes and fears, our own dreams and desires. In our reversed world, where the night sky is a stranger to us, we would have to look inward to find a new sense of place, a new sense of meaning. We would have to tell new stories, weave new myths, and find a new kind of comfort in the darkness. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static backdrop, but a dynamic living system, and that our place in it is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. So, as we drift into the quiet stillness of the night, let's think about the new celestial compass. Let's think about the stars, which are no longer rising in the east and setting in the west. Let's think about the birds that navigate by the silent, invisible compass of the cosmos. And let's think about the profound mystery of our own world, a world that we have only just begun to understand. The reversal of the Earth's spin is an impossible idea, but it is a beautiful one. It allows us to step outside of our own reality and to see our world with new eyes. It allows us to appreciate the delicate balance of forces that makes our lives possible, and to wonder at the incredible interconnected web of life that we are a part of. We are not just living on a planet. We are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. The Earth's quiet heartbeat, that slow rhythmic pulse from within, would be our next chapter to explore. We have looked at the celestial dance and the biological clockwork, but now we must peer into the great silent engine of our world. Our planet is not a solid, unchanging sphere. It is a geologically active body with a churning molten heart and a surface of immense grinding tectonic plates. The movement of these plates, a process called plate tectonics, is the great architect of our geography. It is what has built our mountain ranges, carved out our continents, and created the deep silent trenches of our oceans. This slow, majestic dance is driven by the immense heat from the Earth's core, which creates convection currents in the mantle, the layer of rock beneath the crust. Think of it like a pot of water on the stove. The heat from the bottom causes the water to rise cool and then sink, creating a constant circulation. The Earth's mantle is doing the same thing, just on a much, much grander and slower scale. But the Earth's spin is not an idle observer in this process. It subtly influences the flow of the mantle and the movement of the tectonic plates. The centrifugal force from the rotation pushes the plates outwards, especially at the equator. This creates a certain set of stresses on the plates, a certain kind of pressure that has been in place for billions of years. In our reversed world, where the spin is slowly, patiently reversing, these stresses would change. The outward push at the equator would diminish, and a new set of forces would begin to act on the plates. This would not be a sudden catastrophic shift, but a slow, patient resculpting of the planet's surface. New fault lines might emerge, and old ones might become dormant. The patterns of volcanic activity and earthquake frequency, which are a direct consequence of plate tectonics, would also be affected. The very topography of the planet, the subtle hills and valleys, the great mountain ranges and the vast plains would be slowly, inexorably reshaped. It's a reminder that even the most solid, unchanging things in our world are in a constant state of flux. This leads us to a fascinating and little-known scientific curiosity. The Novikov self-consistency principle, which we've mentioned before, is about the paradoxes of time travel. But what if we're not talking about time travel, but about a change in the fundamental rhythm of time itself? What if the universe has a kind of internal inertia, a resistance to change that would make this reversal impossible? The truth is, we don't really know for sure. The laws of physics as we understand them don't forbid a reversed spin, but they also don't tell us what would happen to the deeper, more subtle rhythms of the cosmos. This is where our thought experiment takes us into the realm of the philosophical, into the realm of the great unanswered questions about the nature of our universe. It's a way of asking, what if the very fabric of reality is a tapestry woven from threads that we cannot see, and what happens if we pull on one of those threads? So let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine this new kind of heartbeat. We feel the slow, patient churn of the mantle beneath our feet. We see the continents, which we have always assumed to be static, as being in a state of slow, majestic motion. We see new mountains forming in new places, and old ones slowly eroding away. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static backdrop, but a dynamic living system, and that our place in it is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. We are not just living on a planet. We are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. The Earth's core itself, that immense churning ball of iron and nickel, is a world we know so little about. We can't see it, we can't touch it, and we can only infer its existence through indirect means, like seismic waves and the study of the Earth's magnetic field. This raises a profound mystery, a question that scientists still grapple with. How do the deepest parts of our planet, the core and the mantle, interact with the surface? We can only infer what's happening deep inside the Earth through indirect means like seismic waves and the study of ancient rocks. The truth is, we don't really know for sure. The inner workings of our planet are a great unspoken secret, a mystery that we are only just beginning to unravel. Our thought experiment, while impossible in reality, is a beautiful way to ask new questions about this mystery. By imagining a world with a reversed spin, we can explore the connections between the planet's surface and its deep interior, in a new and different way. It's a way of saying, if we change this one thing, what happens to everything else? And listening for the quiet, subtle answers that the planet has to give. Echoes of a forgotten past, those whispers from a time before time, would be the next story our reversed world would tell. We've explored the silent, majestic churn of the Earth's heart. But now let's turn our attention to the great patient work of geology, the long, slow process that has written the history of our planet in stone. The geological record preserved in the layers of rock beneath our feet is a testament to the fact that our world has not always been as it is now. Continents have drifted, oceans have been born and died, and mountain ranges have been built and eroded away, all in a slow, majestic dance that has been going on for billions of years. But the geological processes that have shaped our world are a product of a specific set of conditions, and a reversed spin would change those conditions in a profound way. The patterns of erosion and deposition, the way that wind and water carve out landscapes and build new ones, would be completely altered. The great river deltas, those immense fertile lands at the mouths of our rivers, are a product of a predictable flow of water and sediment. But in our reversed world, where the winds and the rains are coming from a new direction, these rivers would flow in a new way, and the deltas would form in new places. The ancient fossilized sand dunes of the Sahara, which tell us stories about a time when the desert was a different kind of place, would now be buried under new layers of sediment, and new dunes would begin to form in the heart of the now arid Amazon. It's a complete reversal of our familiar geography, a silent, slow-motion resculpting of the land itself. This leads us to a fascinating and little-known scientific curiosity, the principle of uniformitarianism. This is a fundamental concept in geology that states that the same geological processes we see happening today, erosion, volcanism, plate tectonics, have been happening in the same way for billions of years. It's a way of saying that the present is the key to the past. But in our reversed world, the present would be a different kind of key. The geological processes would still be the same, but the conditions that they are operating under would be completely new. This would make the study of geology a new kind of puzzle, a new kind of mystery. The rocks would still tell us stories, but they would be new stories, stories that we have never heard before. It's a reminder that even the most fundamental principles of science are a product of a specific set of conditions, and that a change in those conditions can change everything. This also raises an interesting philosophical question about the nature of history itself. Is history a linear progression, a river flowing from the past to the future? Or is it a cyclical process, a tapestry of repeating patterns? Our thought experiment, by reversing the fundamental rhythm of our world, suggests that history is not a linear progression, but a dynamic, ever-changing process, a product of a complex system. It suggests that the stories we have told about our planet's past are not the only stories that could have been told. There are other possible pasts, other possible histories that are just as real and just as valid as our own. It's a way of saying, what if, and listening for the echoes of a world that could have been. And in that listening, we learn something new about the world that is. So let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine this new kind of past. We see new geological formations, new river deltas, and new fossilized sand dunes. We see the great patient work of geology, the long, slow process that has written the history of our planet in stone being rewritten. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static backdrop, but a dynamic living system, and that our place in it is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. We are not just living on a planet. We are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. The mirror universe of weather. A new kind of atmospheric reflection would be our next great mystery to unfold. We've journeyed through the great planetary systems and the echoes of a forgotten past. But now, we must confront the immediate tangible reality of a world remade a climate that feels both familiar and utterly alien. The weather we experience is a product of immense interconnected systems: the sun's energy, the earth's rotation, the distribution of land and sea, and the endless dance of wind and water. In our current world, these forces have created a predictable pattern of climate zones. We have our tropical rainforests near the equator, our vast deserts at 30 degrees latitude, and our temperate forests and polar ice caps. But with a reversed spin, this entire system would be thrown into disarray, creating a world of mirror images and new unpredictable phenomena. The most dramatic change would be the redistribution of rainfall. The great desert belts, those silent, arid sentinels of our current world, would now find themselves in a new climate zone. The Sahara, currently the largest hot desert on Earth, would be in the path of moisture-laden winds from the newly formed Western Atlantic. Over thousands of years, the Sahara would begin to green its ancient sands, giving way to lush vegetation and new, powerful river systems. The land would be slowly, patiently reclaimed by life, creating a new kind of ecosystem that we can only imagine. But this new life would come at a cost. The regions that are currently green and lush places like the Amazon rainforest would now be starved of moisture. The trade winds, which currently bring life-giving rain from the east, would now blow from the west, pushing dry air from the newly formed desert regions toward the heart of the Amazon. The rainforest would slowly begin to wither its vibrant life, giving way to arid plains and savannas. It's a complete reversal of our familiar geography, a silent, slow-motion resculpting of the land itself. This leads us to a fascinating and little-known scientific curiosity: the Hadley cell. The Hadley cell is a large-scale atmospheric circulation pattern that dominates the tropical atmosphere. It is the reason why we have rainforests at the equator and deserts at 30 degrees latitude. Warm, moist air rises at the equator, creating a zone of low pressure and abundant rainfall. This air then travels toward the poles where it cools, becomes dry, and sinks at 30 degrees latitude, creating the high-pressure zones that give us our deserts. But with a reversed spin, the Coriolis effect would be reversed, and the Hadley cell would be re-choreographed. The air would still rise at the equator and sink at 30 degrees. But the winds that carry the air would be blowing in the opposite direction. This would fundamentally alter the distribution of rainfall, creating a mirror image version of our current climate. The new weather patterns would also have a profound effect on our oceans. We've already talked about the reversal of the Gulf Stream, but the entire global ocean conveyor belt would be thrown into disarray. The new winds would push surface water in new directions, and the new climate patterns would change where and how cold, dense water forms at the poles. The consequences for marine ecosystems would be catastrophic. The creatures of the deep, who have evolved over millions of years to depend on the steady flow of these currents, would find their world turned upside down. It's a silent, invisible apocalypse for the inhabitants of the deep, a profound reminder of the fragility of even the most ancient and seemingly stable ecosystems. This raises an interesting question, a philosophical query about the nature of our planet's identity. Is our planet defined by its current geography, its current climate, its current distribution of life? Or is it a more fundamental concept, a dynamic living system that is capable of reinventing itself? Our thought experiment suggests that the latter is true. It suggests that our world is not a static object, but a dynamic living system, and that its identity is not fixed, but is in a constant state of flux. It's a way of saying, what is a planet? And listening to the quiet, subtle answers that the universe has to give. So let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine this new kind of weather. We feel the rain falling on the newly green Sahara and the hot, dry wind blowing across the heart of the now arid Amazon. We see new deserts and new grasslands, new mountains and new coastlines. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static backdrop, but a dynamic living system, and that our place in it is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. We are not just living on a planet, we are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. Humanity's silent adaptation, that great patient adjustment, would be our next story in this reversed world. We've explored the physical changes, the mirror image weather, and the rechoreographed oceans, but now we must turn our attention to ourselves. What would a new generation of humans born into this strange and beautiful world be like? They would not know a world where the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. For them, the sun's journey would be a predictable, comforting arc from west to east. Their language, their stories, their very sense of time and direction would be rooted in this new reality. The poets would write about the fiery western dawn, and the sailors would navigate by a new celestial compass. The very concept of east and west would have different meanings, different connotations, different feelings. It's a profound thought, a reminder that our perception of the world is not an absolute, but a product of the conditions we are born into. This adaptation would be more than just a change in language or a shift in culture. It would be a biological and psychological transformation. The human body, which has evolved for millions of years to a 24-hour cycle of light and darkness, would have to adapt to a new rhythm. The circadian rhythms, our internal biological clocks, would have to be reset. This would not be a conscious choice, but a slow, patient process of evolution. Over thousands of years, a new kind of human would emerge, one whose biology is perfectly in sync with a world where the sun rises in the west. This is a humbling thought, a reminder that we are not separate from the natural world, but a part of it, and that our bodies are constantly, silently in conversation with the rhythms of our planet. This leads us to a fascinating and little-known scientific curiosity. The Novikov self-consistency principle, which we've mentioned before, is a theoretical solution to the paradoxes of time travel. It essentially states that if you could travel back in time, you couldn't do anything that would create a paradox. The universe, in a sense, would find a way to prevent it. But in our reversed world, we are not traveling in time. We are living in a new kind of time, a time where the fundamental rhythm of our world has been reversed. This raises a profound philosophical question. Does the universe have a kind of self-consistency in space as well as in time? Would the universe find a way to prevent a reversal of the Earth's spin? The truth is, we don't really know for sure. The inner workings of our universe are a great unspoken secret, a mystery that we are only just beginning to unravel. Our thought experiment, while impossible in reality, is a beautiful way to ask new questions about this mystery. By imagining a world with a reversed spin, we can explore the connections between the planet's surface and its deep interior in a new and different way. It's a way of saying, if we change this one thing, what happens to everything else? And listening for the quiet, subtle answers that the universe has to give. The cultural and societal changes would be immense. The great myths and religions of our past, which are so deeply tied to the celestial cycles, would have to be reinterpreted or replaced. The sun, which has always been a symbol of new beginnings and of the triumph of light over darkness, would now be the color of endings, of day's gentle surrender to night. The moon, which has been a symbol of mystery and of the feminine, would be a new kind of companion, rising and setting in a new, unfamiliar way. The very language we use to describe time and place, the words we use to describe our feelings and our experiences, would have to be rewritten. It's a profound and humbling thought. A reminder that our culture and our society are not separate from the natural world, but are deeply and irrevocably intertwined with it. So let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine this new kind of human. We see a generation of people who are perfectly at home in a world where the sun rises in the west. We see them telling new stories, singing new songs, and finding a new kind of comfort in the rhythms of their world. This is the beauty and the terror of this thought experiment. It forces us to confront the fact that our world is not a static backdrop, but a dynamic living system, and that our place in it is far more fragile and far more precious than we often realize. We are not just living on a planet. We are living with a planet, and its rhythms are our rhythms. To imagine those rhythms in reverse is to imagine a new kind of song, a new kind of story, and a new kind of truth. The dreamer's return, that gentle final descent, is where our journey must end. We've traveled to a world of mirror images, of reversed rhythms, and resculpted lands. We've imagined the sun rising in the west, and the oceans flowing in a new direction. We've considered the quiet, patient adaptation of life from the smallest bacterium to the largest whale. And we've pondered the philosophical questions about time, about history, and about our own place in this grand spinning cosmos. But all journeys must have a conclusion, and this one is no different. It's time to gently bring our awareness back to the present moment, back to the world we actually live in, the world that is and always has been. As we slowly, patiently bring ourselves back, let's remember what we have learned. We have learned that the world we inhabit is not a static backdrop, but a dynamic living system constantly in flux, constantly responding to the subtle and not so subtle forces that act upon it. We have learned that the most fundamental rhythms of our existence, the day, the night, the seasons, the tides, are not absolutes, but are a product of a delicate, interconnected system. And we have learned that our own lives, our own bodies, our own cultures and societies are not separate from this system, but are deeply and irrevocably intertwined with it. We are a part of the great cosmic dance, a single thread in a great cosmic tapestry. The beauty of this thought experiment is not in its conclusion, but in its journey. It has allowed us to step outside of our own reality and to see our world with new eyes. It has allowed us to appreciate the quiet miracle of what is the simple, profound beauty of a sun that rises in the east and sets in the west. It has allowed us to appreciate the comfort of a predictable rhythm, a steady beat that gives our lives a sense of order and a sense of purpose. And it has reminded us that the greatest mysteries are not out in the cosmos, but right here under our feet and in the quiet, patient beating of our own hearts. This is the end of our story, a story that was never meant to be a lecture, but a lullaby. It was a story told in whispers, in metaphors, in a gentle rhythmic flow that was meant to guide you not to a new understanding of the universe, but to a deeper appreciation of your own place in it. It was a story meant to remind you that even in the chaos of our modern lives, there is a deep, abiding rhythm, a quiet, patient heartbeat that connects us to the cosmos, to the planet, and to each other. I'd like to gently ask one last time, where is the place you're staying now? The time in that place at this very moment, how is it flowing? Feel the stillness, the quiet. The great, impossible journey is over. The sun is in its rightful place. The winds are blowing in their familiar patterns, and the great silent heart of our planet is beating in its own unique, majestic rhythm. The world is just as it was, and you are here now in this moment. The story is over, and the journey is complete. Sleep well, my companion, wherever and whenever you are. May your dreams be as vast and as beautiful as the universe we have just explored together.